called Messy Church, a multi-generational mission for God's family. Pastor Parsley, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you today.
Well, this book, and it has a great cover. I want to commend whoever came up with it. It's a batch of wires all tangled up, and a wire cross sticking up out of it. So tell us what you mean by messy church. It seems to be a real mess underneath it, but the cross evident above the mess.
Yeah, well, as you can imagine, it has multiple meanings for us. But for me, I was a worship pastor for many, many years, and I saw what was, I think, happening within our churches regarding in terms of our worship expression, and I saw this chasm beginning to form between what was old and what was new, and some rejection of what was new. And really, the fault lines of it, I think, were based in consumer church, a consumer model of church, versus what I would call a family model of church. And so the generations began to sort of line up on each side, and I saw it nowhere more pervasive than our worship styles. And so it saddened me because I thought we were losing this power of the generations coming together, and we were separating them and segmenting them. And I thought the implications for that are really disastrous. And so I wrote this book as a comment to that. And where the term messy comes from is I think we have to look at church more like a family rather than a consumer entity or an organization that we belong to that does good things or that produces results. Or, we have to see God's family as who we are and the power of what he wants to restore to us. And of course, as you were talking earlier, just before I came on, the political system is broken. Families are broken within our country. There has to be a restoration of God's design for his people. And I think one of the best ways we can do that is if we'll start seeing the church as the family of God. It changes the way we think about each other, the way we treat each other. And it's a paradigm that I think we have to shift into out of a consumer model that wants something for us versus a family model which says we're here to help one another, raise each other, to encourage one another.
Well, now, let me ask you. Let's unpack these two. I don't want to say opposing, because I'm sure there's well-meaning people on the other side of this issue. But when you say a consumer church, and you just hinted at what it is, unpack that a little bit for us. What are you, when you say a church that's driven by consumerism? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think the consumer mentality is all around us in America, right? I mean, we are bombarded by marketing. We are bombarded by all these ads and all these things trying to get our attention. And so it's no wonder that the marketing element would sort of seep into our church environment. And I think what happens is we end up going to church based on what it can do for us, what it can give us. There's an exchange here that we come to church and expect something to come back to us. We choose our churches based on how it feels, on what it does to serve us. And I stumbled across this little verse in Psalm 68, and it talks about worshiping God and singing to God because he rides on the clouds, and it essentially says, make a big deal out of God. But then it follows with this verse, a father to the fatherless and a defender of widows is God in his holy dwelling. And then it says in verse 6, it says, God sets the lonely in families. And it struck me that the work of God is putting people in a place where they can be trained, where they can be encouraged, where they can be disciplined, where they can learn to grow, where they can learn to serve other people. And I have 5 kids. So my family has 7 people in it, and we live in this house, and it's pretty messy, I got to tell you. And when we have chores that we hand out to our kids, right? those chores begin to shape them and shape their character and develop their outlook on life, that they have responsibility in this family, not just privileges. If we have kids who don't do chores, we call them spoiled. And I think we've probably developed a whole generation of people who attend church that are spoiled.
Well,
that's what I mean by consumer.
Yeah. And so this is kind of at least an outgrowth of the American emphasis. American culture emphasizes the individual. Advertising is pushed towards, you can have what you want, you can be what you want, and of course there's something good about the drive that can come from knowing that success can lead to acquisition, but at the same time you're saying that this is a two-edged sword, and the American church has been infected perhaps by it.
Yeah, the first century church, many of them had to make the decision to follow Christ at the expense of their lives. The 21st century church follows Christ for what he can give them.
Yeah.
This is a dangerous territory. This is a problem, and so the concept of messy church was really based in this idea that we'd rather have straight rows and just nice activities and opportunities for ourselves and our individualistic needs, rather than participate in something as messy and difficult as raising kids, as dinner time that has everybody at the table rather than just the people who are just like you. And so I saw this happening in the worship realm, especially because we were segmenting our groups of people into age-specific groups, and young people had their music and old people had their music, and the old people didn't want to have anything to do with the young people. And when the old people don't want to have anything to do with the young people, you know what happens? We don't understand our history. We don't understand our heritage. We don't embrace the values that are handed down from us from our grandparents and our parents. We have to learn those lessons all over again. We become an end in and of ourselves. We sort of like become the lost boys of Peter Pan, and we're just at the table fighting it out ourselves.
Talking to Ross Parsley, author of Messy Church, and he's just described what that means, the messy church. Ross, your book is available everywhere, I guess. And what is the one thing you hope for people to get from reading your book?
You know what I want them to do? I want them to see that God is trying to place them within a community, and that they can receive both the benefits and the wonder of being part of a family, but that requires their investment. It requires their surrender. It requires that they see the place of worship as an opportunity for God to grow them and to develop them, and that there's surrender involved, and that the benefits of surrender are much greater than the benefits of a consumer mindset. And so that's what I really want people to do. I want them to value their church. I want them to love their community.
And thank you, Ross. Appreciate your time, and we wish you the best with the book.
Hey, thank you so much.
Coming up after the break,